He is the chosen one. You must see it.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Is he the chosen one?
He is.
And it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace.
It's not whether or not we fight.
It's how we choose to fight that matters.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
The Force will be with you, always.
I will not be the last Jedi.
Listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we've been marathoning all of Star Wars in chronological order. We're at a special little sweet spot here. We are at the very beginning of Star Wars Rebels Season 1. This is Droids in Distress and Fight or Flight. My name is Yates.
My name is Jordan.
My name is Keats.
My name is Jessica.
And we're here to talk Star Wars. So, right off the high of last week's episode where we were introduced to all these lovely new characters, Kanan, Ezra, Hera, the entire Ghost crew, and the promise of Jedi training, which we don't exactly get here. We slow down a bit, and instead we spend more time living the day-to-day lives of these characters and getting into the meat of what their relations are to each other and what room there is to grow and tease a little bit about their backstory. So let's start with the first episode. So this episode begins with the crew feeling pressured to take a mission they would otherwise maybe avoid with their tricky Deveronian arms dealer, Vijago. Yeah, and it's a job stealing some sort of arms and weapons from the Empire. And we discover that these weapons have actually very personal significance to the character of Zeb.
Do you know what a T7 disruptor is? What it does to an organic being?
No.
Well, Zeb knows. Because it's what the Imperials used on his people when they cleared his homeworld. Very few Lasat survived, and none remain on Lasan.
I like how three-dimensional of a character Zeb is becoming. He's not just like a comic relief, like, rah, I'm
or the
big,
rough muscle guy. Yeah.
Like, they're really, I mean, at first, he's set up as kind of a little obnoxious.
In the pilot episodes for Rebels, Zeb is kind of like the
muscle.
He's the muscle, and he is the one that's most also, like, opposed to, like, Ezra joining the group, and he lets Ezra get captured. Like, we're meant to sort of, like...
Not like him at the get-go.
Come on! We were dumping him off to the mission anyway. This saves us fuel.
At face value, he seemed like he could have been, like, one of the more straightforward, perhaps two-dimensional characters of the show. And I find it really interesting that right off the bat, he is, like, incredibly important to these first two episodes.
I think really quickly they, like, not even a reverse course with him. They just, like, made him more interesting.
He's so humanized, like, immediately.
Seems like a Dave Filoni type of thing.
Well,
like,
I thought I was going this way, but we're going that way.
He's just making it, not afraid to make it legit.
Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, what it needs. I think maybe he saw the flaw in, like, Chewbacca's character and was like, you guys are gonna think this is like a Chewbacca, but I'm gonna, like, flip it on his head, and, like, this is like what Chewbacca should have been. I mean, maybe it's, like, due to the language barrier.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, if Zeb didn't speak a comprehensible language to the audience, then it just would have been the same problem that Chewbacca had.
I really like the idea, and it's the same thing I really like about Chewbacca, is you see the character and you think he's, like, you know, kind of like a mangy, like, rough around the edge, like a ruffian. And then both Chewbacca and Zeb come from, like, noble backgrounds. Yeah. He's, like, the head of security for, like, the honor guard or whatever he called it.
It starts out as, like, they're just the muscle and, like, the big, strong guy. And then it becomes, like, oh, actually, within the context of your world, like, you're really important. I like seeing, like, why the characters end up joining the Rebels. Like,
that's
finding
cool.
out more about their backstory. Like, if they're not, you know, Force sensitive, like, what would lead them to that point? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to that with Sabine. Because we don't know yet at this point, like, why would you go so far as to become a rebel? And it just makes you that much more invested.
So already I have a question brewing. They don't exactly make this clear or not, but the first thing that we do know for sure is that upon taking this job, Zeb did not know that this is this is the weapon he was getting into.
Yes, they weren't sure what the weapons were.
Okay, so yeah, my question was going to be, did Kanan know and just decide to hold it from Zeb in order to do the mission?
I don't think so. I think they didn't know what it was, and I think it was just sort of like, I hear the Empire is moving like a bunch of weapons, like, let's jump on this.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, Keats, because at a certain point they do know what the weapons are, but Kanan is just kind of like
he tries to act clueless.
He's just like going forward full steam ahead, like, oh, there's no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Hera's the one who's like more like addressing it behind the scenes and like trying to be thoughtful.
I mean, no one brings it up anyway. Like, Zeb doesn't even bring up
he tries to.
Elephant in the room.
He tries
he does try
on the
to.
ship. Yeah, and Kanan's just like,
on the DL.
Listen, I understand. He's like, listen, I understand where you're coming from, but this is better than the Empire getting it, so we're gonna do this mission the way.
Yeah.
He's like, and I don't think he does say a few things that I feel like the tone is trying to be like patronizing. You're right. I mean, I think Kanan is like not like an infallible person, so I think this is a sign of like him trying to be, and I think this is an important thing that we'll learn throughout the season. Actually, is just like Kanan like. Not knowing, like, because he's kind of like the dad on the ship at the end of the day of this.
It's so hard for me to see him in that light, though. I don't know, he's still just like such a teenager to me.
Kanan, you mean?
Yeah. Like, you gotta think that he barely had any Jedi training. I mean, he did, but still, he was just a Padawan. Like, I read the comic, I don't know how old he was. He looked like he was like 13, maybe.
So I was going to ask you about that. Like, why do you...
Yeah, because that's a good point, because it's not said specifically, like, how old he even is in this. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, Order 66 happened, and I'm guessing he was, like, 13, 12.
I think it's the case where Rebels is, like, 15 years after Revenge of the Sith, something like that.
Yeah, and, like...
So he's, like, 30
He was,
now.
like, immediately, like, on his own, and then, like, grew up with, like, the scum and villainy of, like, the Star Wars universe. So, like, that's why he has that, like, mentality, because that's, like... how he grew up. He didn't grow up fully in the Jedi Order.
So when I was first watching this like all the way through with you guys, I was like, yes, I love Kanan. Mm-hmm. He's like the Jedi character that I want. Then when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh, he's doing the Jedi thing, which is like, let's not talk about it. Let's just keep going.
Hera is really the stabilizing force in the crew.
She's like a voice of like sanity. Mm-hmm. And when Zeb does bring it up to Kanan...
Can it wait? If I don't confirm our rendezvous with Vizaga, we'll have done all this for nothing.
Yeah, about that. Maybe this time we don't sell to Vizaga, eh? Maybe we get those disruptors out of circulation instead.
At least we got them out of Imperial circulation. When I was translating, I found out they were shipping those T7s as prototypes, so the Empire could mass produce them on Lothal.
See, Zeb? Perfect crime. We steal weapons meant for the Empire and sell them for credits we desperately need to keep this bird flying.
Which makes sense, but then from Zeb's point of view, like their whole point is to do good. Mm-hmm. And no matter who these weapons get sold to, it's going to be bad. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that was kind of like, you know, it's insensitive, but also like par for the course, or like the short-term thinking.
From the Jedi, you mean?
Yeah.
So ultimately what you're saying, Jessica, is that C-3PO made the correct moral decision in calling the Empire to get those weapons out of circulation.
Wait! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! You're here to rescue me!
Yeah, 3PO's a narc. I mean, obviously, but like, 3PO's a narc.
Yeah.
Seriously, yo.
Maybe he's just really smart, and he knew that the rebels would have to pull together and destroy the weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
They
that's
clearly
right.
hinted at that.
Yeah, 3PO's a good guy. Let's keep going. And
yeah, he sucks.
That was lame. That was lame of him.
I guess it was cool seeing them and like the way that they were introduced. It didn't feel like super forced. I mean, maybe people would disagree with that.
I don't think it felt super forced. It definitely, it was kind of like, watching this like so close to like the movies and stuff, it was definitely like, okay, like, you know, there's this connective through line here, and at the end of the episode, like, we do like feel like this story is like very connected to everything else that's happening. Yeah. And I think that was worthwhile, is the ending with Bail Organa.
I love that.
As that's the reason to include the droids. I thought that made a lot of sense.
I guess they didn't know that they were rebels because they thought they were pirates or something. Because, I mean, technically, C-3PO's aware that...
I think 3PO doesn't know that, but R2
knows,
leads on that, like, he understands what's going on.
Because, like, at the end of Revenge of the Sith...
I'm placing these droids in your care. Treat them well, clean them up. Have the protocol droids mind wiped.
What? Oh, no.
Yeah, so 3PO's like a newborn baby, and R2's like his
100
uncle.
million years old.
Well, then at the end when like Bail Organa said some Jedi line.
Yeah,
then,
that was cute. With Kanan.
Kanan was like, wait.
And then Kanan was like, is that a Jedi phrase? And I love that because I imagine so many other things taking place like throughout the galaxy. Like where people are just saying little phrases that are like a code.
Yeah, because saying Jedi is like taboo. Like you don't even like say that word.
It's like hidden, but it's still there's still this like undercurrent where it's happening, and you just kind of have to like wink at people who. So I like that.
I like that too. I also thought it was just a good bit of like world building too, and I was trying to really make sure to monitor this while we were watching the second episode because I found through the first playthrough the plot was a little confusing. But basically, the Rebel Alliance, or even if maybe the Rebel Alliance doesn't exist in formal yet, but Bail Organa at least is like scouting for like rebels because that's sort of like R2 is like doing like recon on this whole mission that they're on.
Just chilling in the spaceship, just looking around, poking
Where are
his eye
those
in.
rebels?
Actually, in the Ahsoka book that came out, Bail Organa is in. I think he's only in it for a brief amount of time. But they do reveal that Bail Organa is like looking around, trying to find like little pockets of rebellions to try and go against the Empire.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe even looking for like surviving Jedi.
Yeah, probably. I would imagine.
He knows like Ahsoka. He knows that Obi-Wan's alive. He knows Yoda's alive. I'm sure he'd be like trying to protect, look out for others.
It's actually there's a really cool part in that book where I think you hear in his head where he's like he knows that Obi-Wan is alive. But he can't tell Ahsoka because that'll throw her off of her focus of like trying to restore balance to the galaxy. Because then she'll be like selfish and try to seek him out just for the sake of seeking him out and no real moral purpose for that.
So, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that sounds like a cool moment.
Yeah, it was very
Tell no
one.
Yeah, I trust that group.
I think Bail Organa is like kind of an underrated character.
I think so.
I really
we
like
need more
him
stuff
as
with
a
him.
character. Like any time he shows up, I'm like, yes, this is a good scene.
You gotta read the Princess Leia book. He's in it. He's in it a
great.
lot, and he's great.
Cool. I loved that scene on the bus. Well, first of all, I love seeing just like the middle management, like bureaucracy, Empire character.
Yeah, Minister Tua. Yeah, she comes back. She's like,
does she really?
Yeah, she's just like a.
She does?
She does. She's like a random administrator on Lothal.
Oh yeah, she does. I remember the hat.
Yeah.
It's just cool seeing like more of how it works. You know.
Yeah, I love that.
Not all of them are like Grand Moff Tarkin's like stroking their chins. And we were talking about this in the second part of our Revenge of the Sith episode. Like, who are the people that are like chill with the Empire? And it's just like this lady. Like, she is like, you know, it's just a job for her. She makes good money. She gets to boss people around. Like, she's, you know, there's things that worry her and that probably are going to escalate. But as of right now, she's probably in like a pretty chill spot.
I think she was like a librarian like before.
Really?
And then like this was like her opportunity to like. I feel like she felt irrelevant before, and now like the Empire made her feel something.
So do you think she was like not part of like the political landscape prior to the Empire, or do you think she was part of the Republic that merged into the Empire?
Yeah, I think Jordan's saying she was just kind of like, even if she was working for the Republic, it would be like
irrelevant.
a very low.
Yeah, like she was really.
You thinking
relevant.
like Sheska in Full Metal Alchemist?
I think that it makes like an even more powerful point about the nature of evil. You know, like the banality of evil. Like, that's the kind of evil that we see in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Or just like, but she is evil. She's average. And same thing with like the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
They're just like people who like are average, but they love having power over other people. And they love like
in whatever small increment they can like get.
Yeah. And there's so like that's so real in our own world. And like I love seeing that world built out and seeing like how it actually works and how we can see parallels with like our own world.
While we do learn more about Zeb in this, Agent Callus is fleshed out in this episode and set up as a more direct threat, and also we have a bit more backstory that he was involved in like the murder of Zeb's people.
Only the honor guard of the sun may carry a bow rifle.
I know! I removed it from a guardsman myself! I was there when Lasan fell. I know why you fear those disruptors. I gave the order to use them.
Before I was just like, who is this ugly bitch? Like, now I'm like, I fucking hate you. Like, I
just
really
wait.
hate
my boy.
I love I think that this is a very like character-driven show, and that's what we were searching for in the Clone Wars. And it's like, not only is it a character-driven show, like they do a good job making the characters. Like I'm interested in Zeb's character arc now. I'm interested in like Zeb and Ezra's dynamic now, just right from the beginning.
In episode 3.
Yeah, instead of it just being like, oh, like this is what it's just gonna be the two of them like making quips at each other, like for the whole freaking series, that's the same shit.
That's what my concern was about getting into Rebels, just because I hadn't seen season 1 forever. I was just like, oh, new characters means new foundations, which means we have to invest a completely new we have to have some kind of new investment for these characters, and just I wasn't sure if they're going to be able to like set that up well enough to the point where in the whole first season I would really care as much as I do right now. But the way that they're writing it is just like...
They're writing it well.
Yeah.
Okay, so
home
perfect example of that is when Zeb is getting into that fight with the fucking ugly guy.
Agent Callus.
I hate that guy. And like, first of all, I was so invested in that fight. It wasn't just like gratuitous action scene.
Yeah.
But then Ezra saves Zeb, and he does it like through his force power, so it's just like, oh my god,
through his emotional
that's so
force powers.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's just like such a cool moment on so many levels. But they didn't just leave it at that. Then like the next episode, they took it to a whole other level, which was super believable for those characters, that like Ezra wouldn't just let that go and be all humble. Like he was like himself, you know.
Even I
like,
was getting annoyed. I was like, dude, shut up.
That's Lasat gratitude for you. All I did was save your life from an Imperial agent. Or did that slip your mind?
How could it? You remind me every 23 seconds.
You know, Zeb, in some places, when a man owes you his life, he's your servant forever.
In Fight or Flight, Ezra and Zeb are not exactly getting along perfectly. They cause a bit of commotion on the ship, and Hera's solution is to send them on an impossible mission to buy fruit that at the grocery store, the Star Wars grocery store, that there's no way that they're going to have it.
It's the market, yeah.
The farmer's market. They're literally farmers.
They're called embellishments, Jordan. I'm making embellishments in the intro.
Whatever, man.
You're a grocery store.
You mean lies?
Yeah, also another lie in this intro is you blame Ezra and Zeb. Honestly, it's Chopper's fault.
It's his fault!
And it's an episode about getting fruit.
Yeah, something funny about this episode and this episode's storytelling device is just that Dave Filoni, the creator, has like this track record of making shows with an episode about going to fetch some fruit in them. Even back in like his first show, Avatar, he had an episode.
I couldn't find any ginger root for the tea, but I found a map. There's an herbalist institute on the top of that mountain. We could probably find a cure for Sokka there.
And he had one in the Clone Wars.
It appears the dessert is missing its Jogan fruit.
There's one in the new Resistance show.
Just go grab us some lunch, okay? How about a nice, fat, juicy gorg? You know, and then we'll call it even, okay, pal?
Listen, food drives everything.
I'm going to find some medicine.
I'm sending you on a mission.
One gorg coming right up.
Don't even think about coming back without at least one Melu Run fruit.
Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on food. The galaxy runs on
Jogan.
Runs on Jogan.
So they're sent on this impossible mission to go buy fruit that they could never find, and of course, they do find it, and it's in the hands of the Empire. Hijinks ensues, and Ezra and Zeb get a lot closer together. To Jessica's point, it is incredibly well enhanced by the last episode, and it carries over the ending of the previous episode into this episode, but also works as just like a cute little bottle episode where, you know, just two characters are stuck doing, you know, a menial task, and we just watch that play out and kind of grow into this crazy little side adventure that I thought was a heck of a lot of fun.
It's cool to see like the bottle episode format in Star Wars Rebels, because honestly, like, the whole show, Star Wars Rebels, is almost a bottle episode, or bottle show. Just because, like, the whole series is pretty much contained to this one planet, whereas you have something like Clone Wars that's, like, you know, going to, like, 20 different planets per season.
I was wondering about that. Like, why are they so focused on this planet?
This planet is like the Rebels story, where this is where it all happens.
Interesting.
It's become their base of operations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
Ezra, it's where he grew up, but
Yeah.
like the other characters, it's not entirely clear. They do explain a couple reasons throughout the show why they're still there, but you know, I think just the most obvious answer right now is just that it's their home base. It's just like where they have the most connections, and it's like the Empire's there, but it's not as overbearing as like it could be.
Yeah,
They do go to other places.
They do go to other places though.
Yeah, it's like
as they did in the previous episode.
Yavin 4 is like the one base, you know, and they just stay there because it's like where they are right now. But then when they have to move, they move. You know.
Yeah, I think it's just the lifestyle. It's just like like
they stay there until they're found out, and then they
yeah,
dip.
This works for us now. Like we have to have like a network that works for us.
It's a cool planet.
Yeah, it's cool. I've always liked the
I
design.
like the
It's very
design.
cool.
Well,
we get
and-
to see new sides of it in this episode.
Something cool, yeah, in this episode is you get to see, like, the farmers
Mm-hmm.
and, like, how they get... I just love seeing how people get fucked over by the Empire. I don't know why I like that so much, but it just brings it to, like, a whole other level for me when it seems like such a good, like, world building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great.
And
You really hate
it's
the
really in a
Empire.
way we can
Yeah, you really
understand
hate
because
the
in the original trilogy, it's really just like the Empire's the bad guys. I mean, they kill Luke's aunt and uncle, but you know that's really it. Like we don't see.
Well, I think, like, you see what the stakes are. You know, once you see, like, what the Empire is really like. And so many other parts of Star Wars, it's like, oh, well, the Jedi fucked up too. And the Empire, like, thinks they're in the right, blah, blah. But it's like, no, they really are
They're
evil.
either-
Like,
yeah,
they
they're
really
bad.
are. Like, despite all of the problems with the Republic, the Empire is way worse. Like, also seeing how, like, just... They're not average people, the rebels, but they kind of are in a way. Like,
Yeah.
they are underdogs. They're not average people, but they're underdogs. And seeing just, like, how they can touch people. And, like, I think it was part of that scene where, like, Ezra
He
took...
saves his farmer friend.
Yeah, he saves, like, the farmers, and they're, like, scared, like, to jump out of the ship or something. They're like, oh, it's too far, it's too fast. And Ezra's like, do you want to stay prisoners? Like, you have to take a chance. And then, like, the Jedi music plays. Like, I love that. I love that so much because it's like, okay, this is what it really is. It's, like, people inspiring average people to, like, take chances and trust that they're going to be okay if they fight back.
To go off of what you were saying about like all the hijinks that ensues between Zeb and Ezra, we also have like a really good moment of pause with Kanan and Hera just being alone on the ship with Chopper, just playing chess, just talking to each other, just talking about the whole family relationship. Really, that's what the whole scene is about.
And I like how they did say, like, it's so nice to have our kids off the ship.
Yeah.
Because they just explicitly, like, say, like, yeah, this is what it is. And I think they, like, make reference to that at other points where people have lost their families. Like, Ezra doesn't have a family. Like, probably all of them have lost their families in one way or the other.
I mean, yeah, Kanan lost his family in Order 66. Ezra doesn't have parents. Hera, Ryloth is under control by the Galactic Empire. We don't really know about Sabine yet. And then Zeb lost his family to the Empire.
Jordan, what was your favorite part?
It's actually, like, not a story part, but...
Interesting.
It was a piece of music.
Oh.
I sent it to you last night, like, really late on Facebook.
From the Phantom Menace?
Yeah, from the Phantom Menace.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I got the little glistenies.
Well, that and like they used a lot of like old music in it, but there was an original piece when they were getting the TIE fighter going to save the farmers or whatever.
Mr. Wapo Taco.
Mr. Wapo Taco. Yeah, the music was just like, wow.
It was,
and I think my favorite part was me actually enjoying it because I remember hating this episode, and my favorite part is like, damn, I was wrong.
Oh,
my favorite part was when I was wrong. We got to go back a couple years now. Back to me first watching Rebels, hating the first season, hating this episode, not wanting to continue, and now I absolutely love this episode. And we had to record this, and I forgot to watch these episodes, and I really didn't want to. But literally like a minute in, I was like completely invested in this, and I had so much fun watching it. And I regret hating this because it's beautiful. And I love Zeb and Ezra's relationship in this, like, just that moment with the TIE fighter helmet where he's like, "Hey, you collect these."
It's such a great
And then
moment.
he's like, and then he sees like Zeb's reaction. Like, I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Oh, you collect these, right?
I already have that one. But this is a nice one. And besides, maybe I can get Sabine to paint it for me. So, thanks.
I've had so many moments like that in my life.
It's such a real moment.
It's such a real moment, and I was like,
especially because Ezra's a kid, and Ezra's just like, oh no, I don't. You got me a gift. I don't want that. I mean, yeah, I want it.
Yeah.
Sorry, like because he realizes
just appreciating. Like I should appreciate
what the relationship means
exactly.
to him. Like,
and
has
we're growing,
changed.
and we're growing.
Really sweet and
it was
poignant.
really sweet.
And I think that like under a lot of normal circumstances, it'd just be like, what the hell is this episode about? Like it's a whole episode about them getting fruit for no reason. And they get into all of these like wacky antics where they're stealing a TIE fighter. And that's like so obnoxious, like that they're getting themselves like in trouble like that over nothing. But because it's like all about the characters growing and developing, and that was the whole reason that they were sent on the mission in the first place. And because the world gets built out more with, you know, what the Empire looks like in the context of this community and like how people are coping with it and how the rebels fit into this. It's like a really good episode.
Yeah.
But it could have been really shitty.
They earn like the moment where they have like that hero shot where they're walking in front of like the sunset.
The Independence Day shot.
Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, like it feels so like in your face, but it's like, yeah, like you've earned this moment with these characters where like I really like this visual matches exactly how I feel like with them coming back like out all heroic and stuff, and then that great moment with them just like running through the ship and having fun and like just being so happy they got away with it, and then just like you know like
they're just like
jabbing
kids.
each other and
they
yeah,
call
like
them
kids. Yeah.
And another moment that's like reused in a lot of stuff, and it's like kind of basic but like really worked in this was there's always like a moment where someone needs to be saved but they have to like admit something before they're allowed to be saved to the other person, and they did that in this when he's like running from the stormtroopers and he's coming with the TIE fighter. And I just like, I was like, oh shit, this is
He's
really
like,
cool.
I'll only save you if you agree that we're even.
Yeah.
And that now that I've saved
So he can
your
shut up.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they call back to it again because Zeb saves him a second time, and then Ezra's like, I guess now I owe you, and he's like, listen, we don't owe each other anything ever again. Like, no more owing anything. We're just doing this.
Because they started off really rough.
Yeah.
Like with him
and it's
pushing him
because
and leaving behind.
they're friends and they don't owe each other anything.
Well, because now they're
they
at
love
the
each
point
other.
where we're on the same team.
Yeah.
So like, it's gonna be part of our job now, where
Right.
I save you, you save me. Like we're just
that trust is now there where perhaps it wasn't there before.
Yeah, before it was like, okay, like, yeah, we work together, but if I, like, help you out, it's really, like, a shock. And now they're, like, really close. And also it makes me excited to watch the rest of the show, because I want to see Ezra have these moments with everyone else, and I want to see everyone else have these moments with each other. Like, now that they've set the show up as a show about character development, I'm, like, excited to get to know all of the other characters more.
Usually at the end of these things, I do sort of like an overall how do we all feel, but I think we all feel fucking great.
Let's go watch more.
Let's go watch more. We're going to do that right now. My name's Yates.
My name's Jordan.
My name's Keats.
My name's Jessica.
This has been The World Between Worlds. May the melee runs be in your fruit basket. Yes, and not the Empires. Have a nice day.